Hello, resilient Scorpio. Have you noticed that something inside you has grown quieter lately, even if you haven't been able to explain why? July 8 and 9, 2026 may not announce themselves with dramatic signs, yet they could invite you to see your own path through a different lens. Sometimes the most meaningful turning points begin long before we recognize them, unfolding beneath the surface until we're finally ready to notice what has been changing within us all along. Perhaps finding this message wasn't simply another random moment in your day. Maybe your own intuition has been gently nudging you toward a pause, asking you to pay attention to feelings you've been too busy to explore. Let me ask you something. Have you sensed that the challenges you've quietly carried are beginning to reveal a different purpose, as though life is preparing you to see them with fresh understanding rather than asking you to carry them forever? If even part of you recognizes that feeling, then stay with me. What follows isn't meant to predict your future with certainty. Instead, it's an invitation to reflect on a season that may hold unusual significance for someone walking the path you're on. Around July 8th and 9, symbolic astrological patterns encourage themes that naturally resonate with Scorpio. Emotional honesty, renewed trust, and the courage to release the need to control every outcome. These influences don't force change. They simply create space for deeper awareness if you're willing to meet them with an open mind. Instead of imagining a single door suddenly swinging open, picture yourself arriving at a bend in a river where the current becomes calmer and the landscape ahead finally comes into view. What appears during these days may feel less like something entirely new and more like recognizing possibilities that have been quietly forming over time. You may begin noticing three meaningful gifts taking shape, not because you become someone different overnight, but because you're beginning to relate to yourself differently. The first may come through a deeper sense of emotional clarity, where you no longer feel the need to hide from your own truth. The second could appear through a connection that reflects the person you're becoming, someone who encourages trust rather than uncertainty. The third may reveal itself through steady opportunities that strengthen your long-term foundation, reminding you that meaningful progress often grows through patience instead of sudden luck. Scorpio, you spent enough time carrying responsibilities that few people ever saw. This moment isn't about proving your worth one more time. It's about recognizing that your willingness to grow has already begun changing the way you meet the world, and the world may gradually begin responding in kind. Quiet confidence has a way of creating room for new possibilities. Before we explore these themes more deeply, I want to thank you for bringing your attention and presence into this conversation. If something you've heard already speaks to you, I'd love for you to leave a comment below with simply 8 or write, "I'm ready to trust what's quietly unfolding." Think of it less as making a declaration to the universe, and more as acknowledging the commitment you're making to yourself. Stay with me through the rest of this reading. My hope isn't simply that you'll leave expecting something to happen. It's that you'll begin recognizing how much has already been shifting beneath the surface, and perhaps remember a strength within yourself that has been waiting patiently to be seen. So tell me, what was it that quietly drew you here today? Let's begin. There are seasons when insight doesn't arrive with a dramatic breakthrough. Instead, it settles in almost unnoticed, like the first light of dawn slowly revealing details that had always been there, waiting for your eyes to adjust. Scorpio, as July 8 and 9 approach, you may find yourself entering one of those quiet seasons. Rather than demanding your attention, these days invite you to notice what your inner world has been trying to show you for some time. Astrologically, this period carries symbolism that naturally speaks to your sign's gift for looking beneath the surface. The patterns unfolding in the sky encourage emotional honesty, thoughtful reflection, and the courage to loosen your grip on answers that no longer fit the person you're becoming. These influences don't promise instant change. They simply create favorable conditions for recognizing truths that have been patiently waiting for your willingness to acknowledge them. You may not experience a sudden revelation or wake up feeling completely different. More often, the shift begins in small moments that are easy to overlook if you're rushing through your day. A conversation leaves you feeling unexpectedly lighter. A dream stays with you after sunrise. A quiet realization appears while you're walking, writing in your journal, or simply sitting with your thoughts. What once seemed tangled may begin to feel surprisingly clear. not because life transformed overnight, but because your perspective quietly did. I often think of this kind of astrological energy as a still lake reflecting the sky. When the surface becomes calm, you finally see what constant movement has been hiding. In much the same way, this period may help you recognize what truly deserves your time, where your energy naturally flows, and which parts of your life continue to nourish your deeper sense of purpose. The answers may feel familiar, almost as though you've known them all along, but hadn't yet trusted yourself enough to believe them. One of the beautiful things about supportive astrological patterns is that they rarely force themselves into our lives. They offer possibilities rather than demands. They invite instead of insist. Their language is subtle, asking us to slow our pace just enough to hear what constant noise often drowns out. If you've been feeling called to create more quiet, to simplify your schedule, or to step back before making an important decision, consider that instinct carefully. It may not be hesitation at all. It may be preparation. We often assume growth should feel dramatic to be meaningful, yet some of life's deepest changes happen while almost nothing appears to be happening on the outside. During these days, releasing the pressure to solve every question immediately may create space for new understanding to emerge naturally. Sometimes, wisdom arrives not because we searched harder, but because we finally became still enough to recognize it. For those whose lives are rooted in faith, this may echo a familiar truth. There are moments when surrender isn't giving up. It's choosing to trust that life continues unfolding, even when every detail remains unseen. Whether you describe that quiet guidance as God, divine wisdom, or simply the steady rhythm of love itself, you may discover that it has been accompanying you far longer than you realized. The world constantly rewards speed, certainty, and endless motion. Yet meaningful timing often follows a gentler rhythm. It unfolds through patience, awareness, and the willingness to let clarity arrive before certainty does. As Scripture reminds us, trusting with your whole heart isn't an invitation to stop thinking. It's an invitation to recognize that wisdom sometimes reaches the heart before the mind can fully explain it. So if these days bring gentle confirmations, a conversation that lingers in your thoughts, an unexpected sense of peace, or the quiet feeling that you're moving in the right direction, don't dismiss them simply because they aren't dramatic. Lasting transformation often begins with whispers. It asks only for your presence and your willingness to meet yourself honestly. There is remarkable strength in the moment you stop trying to force life into a particular shape and instead become fully present with who you are becoming. That is where the three unfolding gifts of this season begin. They are not prizes for perfection or rewards for never struggling. They reflect the quiet progress you've already made by choosing authenticity over appearances, trust over fear, and thoughtful patience over constant urgency. The first gift begins where few people ever look, within your own emotional landscape. The symbols appearing throughout this period point toward a growing willingness to face your truth with compassion rather than judgment. You may notice that the constant inattention begins to soften, making room for your own voice to rise above years of expectation, doubt, or emotional noise. Instead of searching for reassurance everywhere else, you begin recognizing that your deepest guidance has been patiently waiting within you all along. This renewal isn't likely to arrive as a dramatic awakening. It may come through a quiet morning, a slow walk beneath the summer sky, or a few uninterrupted minutes with your hand resting over your heart. In those simple moments, you may discover that peace doesn't come from finding every answer. It comes from finally asking yourself the right questions with honesty and kindness. As you create room for that conversation with yourself, your inner wisdom has a chance to speak more clearly. From that foundation, the second gift naturally begins to unfold through connection. Rather than promising one extraordinary relationship, this season encourages encounters that reflect the person you are becoming. Whether through friendship, partnership, family, or a mentor who arrives at the right moment, someone may help you recognize strengths you've overlooked in yourself. The connection feels meaningful not because it's perfect, but because it allows you to relax instead of perform. You may notice yourself feeling understood without needing to explain every part of your story. Conversations become easier. Trust feels less intimidating. The relationship offers recognition more than excitement, reminding you that genuine connection often feels surprisingly familiar, as though you're meeting someone who naturally understands the language your heart has been learning to speak. As your inner world grows steadier, your outer circumstances may gradually begin reflecting that change as well. Opportunities connected to your work, long-term goals, finances, or personal stability may start taking clearer shape. Rather than appearing as sudden miracles, they may emerge through thoughtful conversations, steady progress, or doors that quietly open because you become ready to walk toward them with confidence instead of doubt. The transformation begins within, but over time, life has a remarkable way of reflecting the person you've grown into. As your inner world becomes steadier, you may begin noticing subtle shifts in the practical parts of your life as well. Symbolically, the cards associated with lasting prosperity and new foundations suggest that this season can encourage tangible progress, not through sudden fortune, but through opportunities that have quietly been building behind the scenes. A thoughtful conversation about work, a project that finally gains momentum, greater financial stability, or recognition for efforts that once seemed invisible, may begin to take shape in ways that feel both natural and well-earned. If something meaningful arrives during this period, try not to dismiss it as simple luck. More often than not, these moments are connected to choices you've been making long before anyone else noticed them. They grow from the days you remained committed when results were slow, the difficult conversations you chose to have with yourself, and the quiet determination that kept you moving even when the path wasn't obvious. Sometimes what looks like perfect timing is simply the visible expression of invisible growth. When you begin respecting your own value, your relationship with opportunity often changes as well. Rather than chasing every possibility out of fear, you become more discerning about what genuinely reflects the life you're trying to build. In that sense, abundance is less about attracting something entirely new and more about recognizing what naturally belongs in a life that honors your deepest priorities. Your energy shifts first, and over time your choices begin reflecting that shift. There comes a point when effort no longer feels like constant struggle. Instead, it starts working alongside clarity. You become less interested in proving yourself and more interested in building something that feels sustainable. The confidence growing within you isn't loud or dramatic. It is the quiet understanding that you no longer have to earn the right to believe in yourself. In the middle of busy routines, it's easy to overlook how powerful simple moments can become. A slow walk before the day begins. A few uninterrupted minutes with your journal, taking a deep breath before responding instead of reacting, or making space to truly listen to your own thoughts. These ordinary choices gradually reshape the way you experience your life. They become small acts of intention that quietly prepare you for opportunities you may not have been able to recognize before. Take a moment to ask yourself which of these unfolding gifts might already be finding its way into your life. Perhaps it is greater emotional honesty. Perhaps it is a relationship built on deeper trust. Perhaps it is a practical opportunity that feels more aligned than anything you've pursued before. Sometimes the greatest changes don't arrive with fanfare. They become visible the moment you stop assuming they have to look extraordinary. If you recently felt caught between the familiar version of yourself and the person you're gradually becoming, know that this space in between has its own purpose. It isn't a sign that you're lost. It's often where the most meaningful growth takes root. Around July 8 and 9, you may find yourself reflecting not only on where you're headed, but also on the kind of life that genuinely deserves your energy. The astrological symbolism surrounding this period encourages a different understanding of freedom. Rather than escaping responsibilities or walking away impulsively, it invites the quieter freedom that comes from no longer allowing old fears to make every decision for you. Real freedom often begins internally, through the willingness to trust that uncertainty doesn't always signal danger. Sometimes it simply marks the beginning of unfamiliar possibility. If you've been postponing an important decision or holding tightly to something that no longer reflects who you are, be gentle with yourself. Familiarity can feel safe, especially when old experiences taught you to protect your heart. Yet there comes a season when protecting yourself and limiting yourself begin to look remarkably similar. Learning to recognize that difference is a powerful form of healing. Emotional growth isn't about becoming unreachable or pretending you've moved beyond every wound. It is about becoming honest enough to acknowledge what you've already outgrown. Like a forest making room for new growth after shedding old branches, your life occasionally asks you to release what once served an important purpose, but no longer belongs in the next chapter you're creating. You might find it helpful to spend a quiet morning writing down the 3 thoughts, habits, or situations that consistently leave you feeling emotionally depleted. Don't rush to solve them immediately. Simply ask yourself with kindness, is this still part of who I'm becoming, or is it part of who I've already been? Sometimes the question itself begins the transformation long before the answer fully arrives. When people speak about receiving new opportunities, they often focus only on what they hope to gain. Yet genuine receiving also requires making room. It's difficult to welcome something meaningful while every part of your attention remains tied to what has already completed its purpose. Letting go is not simply a symbolic gesture. It's an act of creating space for a different future to take shape. Peace rarely grows from tightening your grip. More often, it appears when you trust yourself enough to release what continually asks you to abandon your own well-being. In that space, something remarkable begins to happen. You stop choosing yourself out of fear or defiance and begin choosing yourself out of quiet respect for the person you've worked so hard to become. Many spiritual traditions describe similar moments in different ways. Often, the breakthrough comes only after we've stopped trying to control every outcome. Imagine someone who spends weeks searching desperately for an answer, only to discover that clarity arrives after they finally give themselves permission to pause. The opportunity wasn't created in that single moment. They simply became available to recognize it. So if this feels like one of those turning points in your own life, don't believe you have to force your way into the future. Your task isn't to hold tighter to what is already fading. It is to trust that releasing what no longer supports your growth creates room for something more deeply aligned to emerge. You don't need every answer before taking your next step. You only need the willingness to move forward with honesty, patience, and the quiet confidence that grows when intention and presence begin walking side by side. Scorpio, as you move into the quiet energy surrounding July 8 and 9, you may discover that this season is asking for something different than simply waiting for life to change. It invites you to prepare yourself as though the version of your future you've been slowly building is already beginning to take shape. That preparation isn't about certainty. It's about becoming present enough to recognize opportunities when they arrive. Think of this period less as a ritual and more as an intentional pause. The symbolic energy surrounding these days favors clarity over urgency, inviting you to slow down long enough to notice what deserves your attention. If wearing a deep burgundy or midnight blue reminds you to move through the day with greater awareness, or if keeping a piece of labradorite or smoky quartz nearby helps you reconnect with your intentions, let those simple choices become meaningful personal symbols rather than rules to follow. What matters is not the object itself, but the awareness it inspires. You don't need elaborate ceremonies or perfect conditions. Sometimes the most meaningful practice is simply creating a few uninterrupted moments where your mind can settle and your thoughts can become honest. During that quiet space, consider writing down 3 things you feel ready to leave behind. They may be habits, fears, old expectations, constant self-doubt, or the pressure to prove yourself over and over again. Whatever appears on the page has likely been asking for your attention longer than you realize. Instead of viewing this as an act of rejection, think of it as making room. If it feels meaningful to you, safely tear up the paper or dispose of it in a symbolic way that marks the end of that chapter. As you do, remind yourself with quiet confidence, I'm choosing to release what no longer reflects the person I'm becoming. The purpose isn't to erase your past, it's to acknowledge that not everything you've carried still belongs in your future. Place your hand over your heart and spend a moment noticing your breath. There is something deeply grounding about recognizing that your value doesn't need to be earned again today. When validation begins growing from within instead of depending on the opinions of others, your decisions often become calmer, clearer, and more aligned with who you truly are. That is where genuine confidence quietly begins. This moment isn't asking you to control every outcome. It's inviting you to trust your own capacity to meet whatever comes next, saying, "I'm ready for the opportunities I've been preparing for," isn't a wish cast into the unknown. It's an acknowledgement that your growth has already been unfolding through countless small choices, many of which no one else ever saw. The symbolism of the number 8 fits naturally with this season. Beyond simply reflecting the date of July 8th, it can serve as a reminder of resilience, continuous growth, and the strength that develops through experience. It suggests that progress isn't always a straight line, but an ongoing cycle of learning, adapting, and returning to yourself with greater wisdom each time. As you repeat the affirmation, "I trust the person I am becoming," you're not trying to predict what tomorrow will bring. You're recognizing who you are today. So much of your journey has required patience, reflection, and the courage to continue even when the outcome remained uncertain. Now the invitation is to believe that you've grown into someone capable of meeting the opportunities that belong in this next chapter. Sometimes one of the most meaningful moments of faith isn't found in extraordinary experiences, but in quietly looking at your own reflection and saying, "I'm ready to move forward. Not because I have every answer, but because I trust myself more than I did before." That kind of honesty carries a quiet strength that no external approval can replace. We often notice profound changes through remarkably ordinary moments. Someone spends a peaceful morning writing in a journal and suddenly sees a problem from an entirely different perspective. Another person takes an early walk without distractions and returns with a decision that finally feels clear. These moments aren't magical because of what happened around them. They matter because stillness created enough space for insight to emerge. If these words resonate with you, take a slow breath and allow yourself a moment of reflection. If you'd like to mark this turning point, leave a comment with simply 8 or write, "I trust the person I'm becoming." Let it be a quiet reminder of the commitment you're making to yourself, rather than a promise to anyone else. This stage of your journey isn't about discovering that you are somehow incomplete. It's about remembering that growth has been unfolding within you all along. You haven't been broken, you've been evolving. Every challenge, every difficult season, and every moment of uncertainty has shaped a version of you that understands resilience with far greater depth than before. That realization naturally invites action. Begin paying closer attention to the small patterns appearing in your daily life. For the next 8 days, jot down meaningful conversations, recurring ideas, unexpected insights, or dreams that stay with you after waking. Over time, you may notice connections that were easy to miss when life felt rushed. Care for your body with the same patience you offer your mind. A quiet morning walk, gentle stretching, mindful breathing, or simply sitting outdoors for a few moments can become powerful reminders that healing often happens through consistency rather than intensity. Your body has carried you through every chapter of your life, and it deserves the same compassion you so often offer others. Finally, spend some time reviewing the practical areas of your life with fresh eyes. Organize your workspace, revisit your financial goals, simplify commitments that no longer reflect your priorities, and invest more energy where you genuinely experience growth. Like your time and attention, your resources naturally begin flowing with greater purpose when they're guided by clarity instead of habit. As you continue forward, don't forget to care for your heart as intentionally as you care for your goals. Generosity doesn't always require extraordinary acts. Sometimes it begins with a sincere message of gratitude to someone who helped shape your life, even if your paths have long since changed. The purpose isn't to reopen the past, it's to acknowledge it with peace, allowing appreciation to replace emotional weight and creating space for new experiences to grow. These quiet choices may seem ordinary, but they plant something lasting. Every moment you choose honesty over resentment, presence over distraction, or gratitude over regret strengthens the life you're building from the inside out. Little by little, You begin living from a quieter belief, I am enough. Not because every chapter unfolded perfectly, but because you stopped measuring your worth by everything you once struggled to control. There are moments when life aligns so gently that it's difficult not to sense a deeper rhythm moving beneath everyday events. Think of someone who, during a season of uncertainty, quietly continued showing up with hope, despite seeing no immediate results. Then one ordinary day, an unexpected opportunity arrived. Not because life suddenly changed overnight, but because months of unseen preparation had finally found the right moment to emerge. Whether you describe those moments as grace, providence, or simply meaningful timing, they often remind us that not every important part of our journey is visible while we're living it. Perhaps that's the reminder you need today. You are not unseen simply because progress has been quiet. You don't have to earn the right to begin again, nor prove your value before taking your next step. Sometimes the most important realization is not that life has finally chosen you, but that you've begun choosing yourself with greater honesty and compassion. So let this moment become a beginning rather than a conclusion. It doesn't require dramatic breakthroughs or perfect certainty. It asks only for your willingness to keep moving with openness, curiosity, and trust. Around July 8 and 9, you may notice that what once felt distant no longer seems quite so unreachable. Not because the world transformed overnight, but because your relationship with yourself has begun to change. Scorpio, you've already made it through seasons that demanded patience, resilience, and quiet courage. Those experiences were never signs that you were falling behind. They became part of the foundation you're standing on now. If you've been waiting for permission to move towards something new, consider this your reminder that the next chapter is shaped less by perfect timing than by your willingness to take one sincere step forward. Throughout this reflection, we've explored themes of inner clarity, meaningful connection, practical opportunity, emotional renewal, and the quiet strength that grows through intentional living. Yet all of those ideas point toward one simple truth. Lasting change becomes possible when you recognize that growth has already begun within you. The opportunities ahead are not separate from who you are becoming. They grow alongside it. If these words are spoken to something genuine in your heart, let yourself consider one question. Are you willing to trust the person you've been becoming, even before every answer has appeared? Can you believe that this next season is less about repairing what is broken and more about living from the strength you've already cultivated? If you'd like to mark that intention, leave a comment with 8 or write, I trust the person I'm becoming. Let those words serve as a quiet promise to yourself that you'll continue walking with purpose, patience, and self-respect, one step at a time. Thank you for sharing this time and this reflection with me. I hope this space has offered not certainty, but perspective and perhaps a little more confidence in your own inner wisdom. If this message encouraged you, consider supporting the channel by liking, subscribing, sharing it with someone who may appreciate it, or using the support link in the description or the QR code on your screen. Every gesture of support helps these conversations continue reaching people who are searching for thoughtful encouragement. To everyone who has already supported this community in any way, thank you. Your kindness makes it possible to keep creating a place where reflection, curiosity, and meaningful conversations can continue to grow. As you leave this moment behind, don't simply remember these ideas, experiment with them. Write in your journal. Take that quiet morning walk. Have the conversation you've been postponing. Simplify something that no longer reflects your priorities. Trust your own observations. The next chapter isn't waiting for a perfect version of you. In many ways, it has already begun taking shape through the choices you make from this moment forward. Until we meet again, take good care of yourself and keep moving with the quiet confidence that comes from knowing your journey is still unfolding.